Hey, what's up, you guys? This is Eric with OzoneTCG. Today we're taking a look at the Sunavalon Therion Adventure deck. This is not really a deck profile, more so a theory about the deck. Kind of an introduction if you guys haven't played this deck already. I have featured this a couple of times on the channel before. None for the current format post Dimension Force, but for the TCG, Dimension Force came out a little under a month ago. Just wanted to kind of talk about what makes this deck unique for the format and kind of how to play it and the consistency issues, if there are any, the consistency of the trade-offs that you play compared to other versions such as Punk Therion Adventure and other Therion or Adventure decks in the current format. Again, if you guys like the content, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. We always like the engagement with you guys. I love interacting with you guys. And be sure to check out our TCG affiliate player link in the description, as well as the official OzoneTCG merchandise shop. We have a bunch of Final Fantasy inspired posters. If you guys like those, be sure to check it out. Again, link in the description. Let's go ahead and get on into it. So, the Sunavalon cards debuted in Vrains, Yugioh Vrains, the anime, used by one of the characters in the show. Came out in Ghosts from the Past 2021, so last year's Ghosts from the Past. Didn't really see any play at all. Wasn't really good until Therion's. And the reason why is because of this card, Therion Lilyborea. It is a plant that can target a plant or a Therion monster in your graveyard. You special summon Lily from the hand and then equip the targeted monster from the graveyard. If it's Therion, Lily will inherit the effects of the targeted monster. Basically, this is supposed to be a 1 to 2 card entire board setup. Really consistent because the deck focuses on this. Genius Lochi. This is the card's level 1 Earth Plant, 0 attack, 600 defense. Because it's a normal monster, we can use Unexpected Die or Painful Decision, Painful Choice, whatever the card is. You send a level 4 lower normal monster from your deck to the graveyard, add a monster from your deck to your hand with the same name as the monster that you sent. Either of those are fine, but specifically for, I think the better card is overall Unexpected Die, even though it is dead past turn 1. That is not really a concern with this deck. You do combo and use most of your extra deck cards turn 1. That is the goal of this deck. And then we have the Sunvine Sowing, which is kind of like an E-Tele for the deck. But basically you have, I'm not going to count these specifically, these are more so extenders, but they're kind of starters. If you play, one of the other starter cards, you have at least 6, potentially 9 starter cards. That's relatively consistent. That is not unusual for a lot of really good decks to play. Because, again, it doesn't use your normal summon, you have options. You have a lot of tech options to play normal summon cards. We'll talk about those in a little bit though, but this is good for consistency. And really the reason why you play this is because your Link 1 Sunavalon Dryas, if it's link summoned to the extra monster zone using a Sunseed Genius Lochi as material, you can add a Sunvine spell or trap. Currently they're only Sunvine spells. You're going to usually add Sunvine Sowing for the first search. Second search, you're going to later search the Sunvine Shrine. We have that right here. We'll talk about that in a second though. Basically, you want to play the deck because of this card, because it searches everything without the normal summon, sets up a bunch of combos and a bunch of plays, and summons your Therion cards for free. Assuming the entire play goes through, we'll talk about that in a second as well. But that is the reason, and you have up to 9 starters, at least 6, depending on which version you play. So it's really consistent at doing what it does. Really, I think the weakness for this deck is that if you hand trap it in the right place, so usually Ash on Sunvine Sowing is a weak spot of the deck. Ash on Dryas doesn't matter as much unless you don't have any other extenders, but Ash on Sunvine Sowing does hurt a lot, and Ash is the most common hand trap in the game. Has been since its release, and probably will be for the next 5 to 10 years, I can only imagine. Basically, that is the trade-off, is that if you hand trap in the right place, it often crumbles, and it's really hard to recover from that. If you don't open up your adventure stuff or Therion cards, that's where it suffers. And then using most of your extra deck turn 1, there isn't a whole lot of room for utility because you have to use a lot of names. And the other downside, I think, even though it is consistent, you do have to play a lot of bricks. So one of the bricks you have to play is Sunseed Twin, you only need one of these. A lot of people opt to play 2 though, because if you draw it, you can't summon it off of Sunvine Sowing, because Sunvine Sowing can only summon from the deck. It is not the exact same thing as E-Telly, unfortunately, but Sunseed Twin, if it's normal special summoned, you can target while you control a Sunavalon Link monster, so Dryas. Summon a level 4 lower plant monster from the graveyard. You just special summon Lochi that you used. So you go Unexpected Die, summon Lochi, and then combo from there. We'll show the basic combo later. You don't have to play this card necessarily, but I think it's good enough to play is Angelica. It lets you use Jasmine's effect twice to search, and helps you draw cards as well. But the other Arrow Mage card that is mandatory is Laurel. This card came out in Chaos Impact, had no impact, ironically, on the metagame when it came out. The Arrow Mage cards are really cool, and Jasmine is insanely busted, the Link monster that is. But this card turns a monster into a tuner. You can do some synchro plays with it, but it's mostly for the special summon effect, because your life points will generally be higher if you go first with this deck. If not, then it's a complete brick. It's a complete brick as is. Kind of sucks that you have to play it, but it is mandatory, while Angelica is not. Mardell is also mandatory because it searches your Lilyboria. It can also search your other bricks. This card is really good though, but honestly, if you didn't have to play it, I wouldn't. Honestly, you probably could cut it, because you can just summon any of your other plant monsters instead, but I think it's still worth playing for right now. If you also play something like Spore, you can go into a level 10 after, or rather before using your Sunvine Sowing. If you play a dedicated build, you go into Baron de Fleur because this is level 9. Obviously, Spore is level 1. If you get Glow Bulb, you can play that too. And Sunvine Shrine. Now, it's an extender, but you don't ever want to draw this card. You only want to search it on the second summon of Dryas, because Dryas is not a hard one per turn at all. But you don't ever want to draw this card. Same with Sunavalon Bloom. Your Dryad Trentier searches this, searches any Sunavalon spell or trap. There are no Sunavalon spells right now. Yeah, you search this as your fake skill drain. Lets your plants beat over monsters by boosting their attack. But you don't ever want to draw these cards. So right here, you have at least to say that you play, even if you just play one of these, you have, we'll just say for example right there, 4 bricks. And this is good to draw. This card's not a brick at all. You do want to draw this, especially in case your Dryas gets stopped. But 4 bricks right there. That happens in some decks. If you're playing 40, it's not too bad to draw, but it's just not, it's too many bricks compared to how many starters we play. But once you start playing the Therions, that's fine, because your Therion cards, you want to see every single one of them, except in multiples, but that's how it is. But consistency-wise, of course, we have the Lilyboria. You'd play 3, I'd play no less than 3 in this deck, because you can just, it's always an extender. You're always going to have plants in the graveyard, barring something like D-Shifter or Macrocosmos, anything like that. But you definitely play 3 Lilyboria. You definitely play at least 1 Regulus, and Regulus is the reason why this engine is pretty good, because you can just use Lilyboria, equip Regulus from the graveyard, or more often than not, you're going to go summon Lilyboria, search, send whatever, usually the equip card, and then search your Therion Discoliseum to search your Regulus. So Regulus, just another plus off of that. Or if you already have Discoliseum, you can get charged and send your monster in your spell or trap zone. You're always going to say that you have Regulus equipped with Lilyboria. You're always going to send your equipped monster. So in this case, Lilyboria from Regulus, and then Regulus will send itself. A little bit of issues with playing around that, but we'll talk about that later too. Honestly, I don't think, none of the Therion cards are bricks, but I don't think you necessarily need to play 3 Discoliseum. However, if you are playing a card like Mystic Mine, I think just the Terraforming and maybe 1, 2 or 3 Discoliseum is fine. It really depends on how much you expect Droll to see in a given format, because Droll and Lockbird does hurt this deck quite a bit. It hurts most Therion decks in general, but especially this deck. This deck searches a lot. That is another choke point of the deck, is being open to Droll and Lock. You really can't play through it unless you're playing the Sylvan Link monster, Dance Peony. We'll talk about that in a second too. But to alleviate some of the kind of power issues, it's a powerful board. They're really, most decks can't play through the end board of this deck. But to ease with playing through hand traps, we do play as well the Adventure Engine from here. We'll put these to the side. But that does add to your bricks, so Wandering Griffin Rider, you don't really want to draw. Illegal Knight, if you choose to play, that is always an option. And then Dracoback, if you play that as well. I think you do play this, and Faithful as well. Kind of 4 bricks you have to play, so that's 8 bricks in 40 cards, so a fifth of your deck is cards you don't want to draw. Normally that's not very good. It's not a lack of consistency, again, because the deck has up to 9 starters for your basic plays and extenders out the wazoo, but you don't want to draw a lot of the cards you play. Now, if you don't play something like Illegal Knight, if you don't want to play something like Mardell, that will be 6. That's better. Still not good for a meta deck, and I think this deck is still technically Rogue, but is, I think, the upper echelon of Rogue because it does have a higher ceiling of what it can do because the plant cards are extremely flexible. But of course you have to play the 3 Right, the 3 Aquamancer, 3 Water Enchantress, the Faithful, the Dracoback, and the Griffin Rider. That is the Adventure Engine, kind of the 9-card engine, or 10 cards if you play Foolish, which you can play Foolish in this deck. But really, it's really hard to cut down on these bricks, and I think that's the number one thing why this deck doesn't do well, in addition to not really having the recoverability that it kind of needs to. That something like Punk Therion somewhat suffers unless you play something like 2 Deer Note, but the Punk cards on their own generate a lot more advantage than these do. And when I say advantage, I mean power advantage. So something like Chaos Ruler gets you a card and provides utility to be able to summon itself back from the graveyard, and gets you potentially, Hot Red Dragon, Archfiend King, Calamity. That is more worthwhile, I think, in my opinion, than something like this, although I do think this deck has a lot of merit. Removing the normal summon, though, can also be an issue, say, something like versus Mirror Jade. It really depends. It really depends on what your event is. For Regional, I think this deck could easily win a Regional, even with 500 or more players. This deck has the capability to. YCS, that's the different story. Because we have so many bricks, it's really hard to side for this deck. You don't want to take out a lot of the engine pieces, but if you do play a lot of bricks, say going second, you can take out something like Sunavalon Bloom. You can take out, you wouldn't want to take out your riders, but you could take out just your, if you play, say, 3 Coliseum, you could take out 1, sign your Mystic Mine, sign your blowout cards, Lightning Storm, potentially Forbidden Droplet, potentially, I don't know, Dark Ruler no more. If you play something like that, Nibiru, you can play all of those cards. And if you play something like Nibiru, you would side out something like Unexpected Die, unless you're playing Painful Decision. You can do that too. Painful Choice, whatever it is. Yeah, we're gonna go ahead and talk about some of the combos you can play with this deck and the extra deck options, because there are some really cool ones. Again, plants tend to be very flexible. That's always how they've been, because Lone Fire existing has gotten you to basically every single plant card ever printed. We're going to go ahead and talk about those right now, though. Let's move these out of the way and see what we have. So some of the options, again, the Laurel, Angelica are cool, but Naturia Rose Whip, Cactus Bouncer, and Necro Synchro, as well as some of the extra Therion cards, you can play those too, just for going second options. But really, these cards, I think, are the main tech cards to consider for this deck. So Rose Whip gained prominence because Therions can summon it, Lily Borea enables it, helps enable it. You can also use it as a tuner, Lily Borea or plus Rose Whip in the Punk Therion Adventure version can summon your Amazing Dragon or Psychic and Punisher. Those are always options. You can also summon this off of Fibrax. In this deck, we actually do not play Fibrax at all. We don't need to. And Sunvine Sowing and Sunvine Shrine lock us into plants from the extra deck only. So we don't want to play any extra deck monsters that are not plants, unless you're playing a dedicated build. There are always going to be stipulations on that. But I think Rose Whip is really good as a side deck option at the very least. I think you should be playing it. Again, even though it is a brick, going first is very strong versus something like Despia, because they cannot really out it. If they can only activate 1 spell or trap per turn, and you have Regulus on the field, which can negate effects of cards, plus Rose Whip, they are locked into basically only using monster effects. So Fallen of Albaz, they would have to have Albaz. Super Poly doesn't out the board. Albaz, you can just negate the Albaz effect, and then they can't do anything from there. You can negate their one monster effect, anything like that. So it's always a good option. I think it's good enough to play in the side deck, but we'll move on to Cactus Bouncer. Cannot be special summoned, so you only want to ever normal summon it. It does have 1800 attack though, which is really, really strong, and it is a level 4 plant. You can't special summon this off of your Dance Peony, the Sylvan Link 2, but you can search it off of Aromaseraphy Jasmine. It's good. Neither player can special summon it while you control another plant monster. You're always going to have another plant monster. You can also have your Link monsters gain attack with Sunavalon Bloom if they're attacking. So just kind of force your opponent to use their battle phase in order to even try and play the game. And honestly, even then, if you have like Bengal Answer, they're just not playing the game at all. They can't special summon at all. Even though you can't special summon, you're going to have monsters that have higher attack than them. So again, 1800 beats out a lot of monsters in the game right now. Really, only Adventure Tokens and Alibur, because Alibur has 1800 attack, are the only cards that can. But if they can't special summon Adventure Tokens, they don't have that option. If they have Alibur, they have it. You can bounce it anyway with Bengal Answer, then you lose 1800 life points. That's a really cool option. I think this is a good option in the deck. And if you don't normal summon, say you have Unexpected Die as your starter, then you can search it. But again, it's another brick at the very worst. At the very best, it's just stopping your opponent from playing the game whatsoever. It can also stop going second. It kind of acts as a pseudo Amano Awado. So say you normal summon Cactus Bouncer, and you have a way to, summon your other plants. You have like Foolish Burial. You summon Lily Borea. They can't special summon. Neither can you. But it's okay going second. It's not quite as powerful as Amano Awado, but it is another option. At the very least, you could also side this card too if you want to main it. Probably not a bad option too. And the Necrosynchron is actually the most interesting one. I wouldn't play this in just the Sunavalon Adventure deck, but you can play it in Punk Therion versions because you can summon this off of Fibrax, of course. Use it for Baron de Fleur using Necrosynchron and Chaos Ruler, and then again go into Baron de Fleur. Because it was used as synchro material for a wind synchro monster, you can summon a level 1 plant monster from your deck. Genius Lochi happens to be level 1, so after you get Baron de Fleur or play through hand traps, anything like that, you get your Genius Lochi from the deck for free, and then you can do your full plant combo from there, because your full plant combo involves a single Genius Lochi. We will go over that combo in the next section. It's cool. I don't think it's great because it does use all of your extra deck monsters basically. I think you have like maybe 1 or 2 left over. It's just not worth it usually, but it is a really cool option, and some decks do play this for the Martial Metal March or whatever it's called, the level 3 tuner synchro that summons another tuner from graveyard just to summon Fibrax and Dagda. That's all. Then you can go into Artifact Scythe. This deck can also pivot into that if you choose to not use Sunvine Sowing as your starter, or extender rather. Then you can just play a bunch of extenders to do that. Those are technically options in this deck as well. You could, because your Dryas doesn't actually lock you into using those, it does lock you if you say use Sunvine Sowing again into some of your power plays, into Dagda, anything like that. Let's go and show off the combos that you can do. We are only going to use 1 Jasmine. I can proxy one if you guys want to see that, but I only have 1 Jasmine. My other one's actually in the mail right now, funny enough. So I can also proxy the Jasmine using Dance Peony. Again, I'll denote that in the combo. But basically, we're going to use some of these cards just to do the full plant combo. Let's go ahead and take a look at it. Okay, so this is going to be the basic 2-card combo, 2.5 card combo. Just requires either Water Enchantress or Unexpected Die. Rather, Water Enchantress and Unexpected Die, or Genius Lochi, and any discard if you really want. If you play Painful Choice, Painful Decision, whatever, this combo will be a little bit different. The sequencing will be a little bit different. The exact plays and end board will be the exact same thing. So say that we're going to start with Unexpected Die. You go Unexpected Die, summon Genius Lochi from the deck. Cool. Usually you'll summon in defense position, and then of course Unexpected Die goes to the graveyard. And then you're going to, in this case, banish Aquamancer and get your Rite of Aramesir. Add this, and then Rite will activate it. And in this case, we'll use this Field Center So again, we're going to summon this in defense position. The sequencing matters, of course, and I think what matters a little bit more, actually we're going to use a different token. We're going to use our Alabaz token, so we'll use this as the field center. To say here, because the zone placement actually does matter, it's still in our hand. In this case, usually you're going to want to keep these two zones, so you know this is zone 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You'll want those clear, or you'll want 1, 3, and 5 clear, because of Jasmine's arrows. They point down, left, down, right. So you're going to activate Rite of Aramis here. Okay, you get your token. There you go. And then you're going to get Fateful Adventure. Send that to the graveyard. And Fateful Adventure, its placement doesn't matter because we have a bunch of other spaces for these spells and traps. So let's go ahead and go Fateful Adventure effect. We're going to add Wandering Griffin Rider, and then we'll discard any card. So if it's like a hand trap, cool. You have your cards there. And then you special summon your Griffin Rider. We're going to actually go right over here into the leftmost zone. And then we're going to trigger Fateful Adventure. So this gets you Draco back. This doesn't really matter too much. This is just a free card too. So if you happen to draw it, at least you can discard it for free and then put it on your token. Because the token matters. Just keeping that on the field because your Griffin Rider is going to negate an Ash or Valor on your Dryas. So we're actually going to go into Dryas right now. And then Dryas triggers because it is summoned using Genius Loci into where is it? Sunvine Sowing. And then we're going to activate Sunvine Sowing. So this, you special summon a Sunseed monster from your deck, in this case Twin, and then you take 1,000. Because you took damage, Dryas triggers. So Sunvine Sowing's damage is, of course, an effect. You don't pay life points for it at all. So usually you'll go Chainlink 1 Dryas, Chainlink 2 Twin. The Dryas is just to play around Ogre. Not that it really matters right now. It's just a failsafe. So Sunseed Twin will target Genius Loci as Chainlink 2, and then of course Chainlink 1 is Dryas. So we're going to summon our Genius Loci to this zone, or if you summon, Sunseed Twin over here, you're going to summon it, your Loci right here. And then Dryas continues to resolve, and that gets us our Sunvine Healer, and then you gain your life points right back. So currently you're at 8,000, and then Sunvine Healer on special summon triggers targeting your Dryas, you gain 300 life points for each link rating. So a link 1 will get you 300, link 2 600, so on and so forth. Now you'll be at 8,300 again because you summoned it from the extra deck. And from here we're actually going to go into Jasmine. And Jasmine's not going to do anything right this second. As far as its trigger effects, we have no other trigger effects currently. So if they try and Nibiru here, you just use Griffin Rider's effect. And then go from there. And then in this case we'll go, it doesn't really matter which material you tribute, but we'll just say Sunseed Twin. Summon our Mardell. And then Mardell will add our Lilyboria. Technically you can go just straight Lilyboria. If you were to just summon Lilyboria, say you didn't want to play Mardell, right? Mardell's off the field. Instead, we just summon Lilyboria, because Jasmine can summon any plant monster in the game that can be special summoned, of course. So in this case, Lilyboria would trigger, or activate rather. You can send your Draco back, or you can send Fateful, whichever one you prefer. Personally, I'd probably send Fateful. The reason is we don't really have any other targets left. If you happen to negate with Griffin Rider, cool. If you play Legal Knight, that'd be a reason to keep the Fateful Adventure on the field. Or at worst, just go Aquamancer, but in some cases you'll go Draco back. If you want the hand advantage, go Draco back. Honestly, maybe Draco back is even better, just because you'll have your token anyway. But say that we were going to go Mardell instead. Mardell triggers, adding Lilyboria, and then cool, we have a bunch of cards. We've already gone massive pluses right here. In any other deck, this would be insanely broken, but because we are locked into plant monsters, it's not as good. However, there are some other plays that we can do that don't use Sunvine Sowing if you want to summon other monsters from the deck that require an additional extender, though. We can always talk about that in another video. In this case, we are going to go, let's see, from here. You can go Mardell. Again, if you go Mardell, you don't get your Lilyboria. Lilyboria will be a different card, but for the actual combo, this is the least commitment, because then Lilyboria can summon, say, or equip your Sunseed Twin. So this is for the combo 1. We'll talk about the second branch using a different target for Mardell. Lily Borea, of course, is going to go into send your Sunseed Twin for cost to get Disc Coliseum. And then you're going to activate Disc Coliseum over here. And then you're going to add Regulus. And so at this point, you do have to get rid of your Lily Borea. Now, how do we get rid of Lily Borea? Well, 2 cases. You can either go into something like Melius, or you can go Melius right here, which I think might be the best case for this specific board. So we're going to do that right here. We're going to go Melius, and you still have protection from all your opponent's hand traps, specifically Nibiru, because this deck really loses hard to Nibiru if you don't have protection. Melius will trigger. You have to go into your other your Pione, because it's a link monster. So, any of your plants you can go into. Pick your poison. We'll just say these 2. We use Mardell and Lily Borea to go into Pione because it takes any 2 monsters. You can use the effect from here. In this case, we will not, though. We'll go ahead and go into Genius Lochi plus Dance Pione for our Melius. Melius triggers. If it's Link Summon, you can special summon a Genius Lochi from the graveyard. Cool. There we go. And from here, you can either go into Dryad Trentier using these 2, or you can go into your other Dryas, say, or Sunvine Healer. In this case, we'll go Sunvine Healer. And then if it's special summon, you can target a Sun Avalon Link monster on the field. Melius, you gain another 900 life points. So your opponent, you'll be up 1,200 at that point. Your Longu and Burn won't matter. From here, and then we're going to go right into Dryad Trentier. And Dryad Trentier triggers, getting you your Sun Avalon Bloom. Cool. Now we go Therion King Regulus, target Lily Borea, and summon right here. Now we didn't use Jasmine's second effect, and that's kind of okay, that's kind of not. We'd rather have it. You can also go from here Bengal Answer, if you had, say, an extender. This board is like okay. I don't really like having Jasmine just sitting out there. It would be better if we could have something else. So instead, we are going to go we're going to go into Link 3 with a 2+4 into our second Melius. You do have to play 2 this card. The card's very good. I definitely underrated it when I first read it. But Melius from here is going to go into your other Lochi. And from here, we are going to go into Bengal Answer. So Bengal Answer is just going to sit on the field, and that's okay because it bounces. It's like an Altergeist Silquidus. Sun Avalon Bloom doesn't require a Sun Avalon, it just requires a Link 4 plant monster. So from here, we do have the negate, we still have this card in hand, we have a negate from Regulus, and we have a negate from Griffin Rider. Card effect it negates activations of cards or effects, bounces a monster, negates, it's like a skill drain. Instant skill drain, so it doesn't negate it permanently, the opponent's monsters. It only negates it one time. It's like a field breakthrough skill. So it's okay. It's a good card that's at least searchable, but this is the least commitment you have to have if you have like the adventure stuff and a Genius Lochi, anything like that. If you have something like Cactus Bouncer, say you had Cactus Bouncer as well, at the end you would just normal summon it, and then they can't special summon. Cool. This is a really strong board if you happen to be able to get this, or if you have the extender or happen to draw this, or with the other line we'll talk about, then you can go Cactus Bouncer from here. This on its own is a really strong board. Really hard to break this. Going second, you have a lot of options to play into. You can also protect, say you can't use Bengal Answer for whatever reason, they droplet, whatever. Then you can go ahead and go Disc Coliseum, protect your Cactus Bouncer, because Disc Coliseum is busted and can protect any of your monsters. We're going to go ahead and talk about the other line of play where we search a different Mardell target. Let's go ahead and take a look at that. So we have Mardell in the field. We just search our Arrow Mage Laurel. This is at the point where you have 8,300 life points. So because your life points are going to be higher than your opponent's, we're going to special summon Laurel for free. And then from here, we're going to use Laurel plus Mardell for a free Sylvan Dance Peony. It's not actually Dance Peony. It's going to be our second Jasmine. Again, we're proxying for this one. And in this case, Laurel is going to trigger if you gain life points targeted non-plant, but that doesn't matter. So if it's sent to the graveyard at all, not just from the field to the graveyard, but just the graveyard at all, you gain 500 life points. So it'll be up to 88, and then both of these trigger. So in this case, Jasmine Chainlink 1, Jasmine Chainlink 2, they are mandatory. You do have to do that. And then, your monsters also can't be just for battle. That doesn't really matter too much. But in this case, we're going to add a plant. So in this case, we'll add Liboria, and we will add, we'll add our Angelica. And in this case, again, at this point, you have a couple of options. So if you want to just go into the safe Liboria play, you can. That is always an option. In this case, I think we'll go, let's see. We'll go Angelica, effect target Jasmine. You gain some life points. 1600 life points. And then you can special summon it immediately. In this case, let's see. Because we control an aroma monster, we can go and summon this. So first we will go link, so this is again our Jasmine plus our Genius Lochi into, where did it go? Into our Melius. Melius number 1, Melius will trigger, and we will get our Genius Lochi. Cool. So then we have that, and we're going to go special summon Angelica, because it's a free summon, of course. And then we'll go into, not into that. So we have these two. We're going to summon our other Melius using Jasmine and Lochi. So our second Melius will trigger. In this case, we'll use this Genius Lochi, and then this Genius Lochi will be immediately linked off for our second Dryas. This is where the Sun Vine Shrine comes up, so Dryas will trigger. Again, not a once per turn, hard once per turn specifically. You can either go your second Sunvine Sowing to summon from the deck for next turn, or you can go Sunvine Sowing from here. Again, we have Liboria still in hand, so there are a couple of ways to sequence it. It depends on what your board state is. So every single time you're not going to probably do the exact same thing unless it's versus the exact same deck, exact same situation. From this case, you can go Liboria, or you can just go Sunvine Shrine. In this case, I'm going to go Liboria. We're going to target any of our monsters in the graveyard. Let's go Mardell. So from here, get that. Liboria can either send itself or send Mardell. Up to you. I think I'm going to send Mardell just because we'll have an extra free body. We're going to add, of course, Disc Coliseum searches. Get our Regulus. So you don't have to activate Sunvine Shrine at all, because you do have to discard a card from the hand, Draco back, but it's free, basically. But from here, we will go these two into Dry Trentier. Cool. Dry Trentier triggers. And then we'll get Sunavalon Bloom. So we're -1 on the hand, but plus, like, what? 4, 6, 7. We're +6 on the field, so we're overall +6. Really strong combo. We're actually not done from here. So we're going to go these two into Bengal Answer. Bengal Answer can also go under here if you want to end up using the effect of Dry Trentier to destroy four cards the opponent controls. That's the option. It's probably the best option, honestly. And then from here, we'll go Regulus, effect, target Liboria, summon. Set 1. We still have Draco back. We still have Sunvine Shrine. We still have 3 other cards in hand, or yes, 2 in this case. We'll have 2 blanks because we only use 2.5 cards for the combo. 3 cards if you want to consider actual cards from here. This is the best combo, I think. If you really wanted to, you could also link these two into another, link to Peony to potentially go into another plant monster. There is Teardrop and Snowdrop, the Rika monsters. That is another version to play, but those play even more bricks, and I don't think that's the best way to play the version of the deck right now. Again, just because Teardrop requires your 2 level 8s, you do have to, Xyz into those, but that is really hard to beat. That is the best technical board of this deck. This is I think, playing the least amount of bricks. if you're playing not the Aroma, maybe Aroma Laurel, Aramage Laurel, or Aroma Seraphy Angelica. Let me know what you guys think about this. I want to play more of this deck in person. I'm probably going to do some live stream duels or just replays using physical cards with some of the team. Kind of see how this deck plays. Let me know what you guys think about this deck. Eric with OzoneTCG. Thank you for watching, as always.